Pawn Stars is one of the biggest successes in reality television. The daily goings-on at the massive, family-owned Gold and Silver Pawn in Las Vegas combine the gruff family dynamics and good old boy vibe of Duck Dynasty with the treasure-hunting thrills of Antiques Roadshow and the potential for scandal that goes along with everything in Sin City. But behind the scenes, things are not exactly as they appear on camera. While the items you see on TV may be legitimately valuable, how authentic are the interactions among the show's stars, customers, and experts? If you dropped by the shop, could you really wheel and deal with one of the guys? They say what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, but we've done some digging to dish on the reasons Pawn Stars is totally fake. Going to the real pawn shop is like visiting a Hard Rock Cafe. Gold and Silver Pawn is a real, working pawn shop in Las Vegas, open every day from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., with a small window open 24/7 to trade in stuff for cash to fund any and all illicit Sin City adventures. Child star Mara Wilson hit the big time in 1993 when, at just 6 years old, she starred alongside Oscar winners Robin Williams and Sally Field in the family comedy classic Mrs. But since the show has taken off, the shop has become much more of a tourist attraction than a place to hawk old coins and family heirlooms. If you visit, you're far more likely to run into a dozen or more tourists taking pictures than you are to see the stars of the show. Doubtfire. She followed that with another giant hit, the 1996 film adaptation of Roald Dahl's Matilda, but then she soured on the entertainment biz almost as quickly as she became a star. After Matilda, Wilson had a few roles in lesser-known films and TV series before walking away from the set for a solid decade. She took up theater and writing instead, and also began working with charitable causes. It's more akin to a visit to a TV set or a pop culture museum than it is a pawn shop. Which is good, because real pawn shops are pretty seedy. The deals are arranged beforehand when a scene starts and some guy comes in off the street to pawn some Civil War-era blunderbuss or what have you. It's anything but spontaneous. Each customer that comes in to trade has already signed a release form consenting to the use of their image and voice. Furthermore, their item for sale has already been screened, vetted, examined, and cleaned up for TV. And, believe it or not, she grew up. Crazy how that works, huh? Keep reading to find out what the adorable little girl from Mrs. Doubtfire looks like now, as well as what she's been up to since her heart-melting performance helped us all forget that we were basically just watching Robin Williams in old lady drag. She peaked early in a 2013 blog post. Wilson opened up about why she decided to quit acting after such a successful run on the big screen. "Film acting is not very fun," she wrote. "Pawn Stars isn't going to just put any item on TV, only the good, valuable stuff is going to make it onto the air, or even get filmed in the first place. By the time the interaction is recorded, the value of the item has been predetermined, and the back and forth between the employees and the customer has all been lightly scripted so as to arrive at the agreed-upon price point. You won't run into the stars of the show unless they're taping, where all of the sales have been carefully mapped out. The stars of the show don't work the counters waiting for business. Tourists in the shop are so eager to get a picture of them that they can't risk it. If some other customer is accidentally photographed in the process, it's a violation of Nevada's privacy laws. Doing the same thing over and over again until, in the director's eyes, you get it right, does not allow for very much creative freedom. Nevertheless, there are 50 other employees at the store who do the bulk of the day-in, day-out pawn shop stuff. The best times I had on film sets were the times the director let me express myself, but those were rare." She went on to describe how dehumanizing auditions can be, as well as how inherently ridiculous it is to even be a celebrity in the first place. The stars of Pawn Stars, if they're on the premises at all when taping isn't happening, are generally somewhere in a back room signing autographed photos, which are then sold at the store for $25 each. It's all about the merch. The shop looks almost exactly like it does on TV, but with a few exceptions. A few years later, she expanded on her lost love for the big screen in a 2016 interview with NPR. The show is carefully shot at angles so as not to show the huge amounts of souvenir merchandise the store sells. She explained how the death of her mother, which happened when Wilson was 8 years old, combined with what she viewed as her career peak performance in Matilda, led to her becoming kind of disenchanted with acting, with Hollywood.
She kept acting for a few years, however, because it was a crutch that helped her deal with the depression and anxiety she suffered after her mother's death, but even the sense of stability she felt from her career soon faded. Throwing in the towel on top of the aforementioned creative frustration Mara Wilson experienced with film acting, she also suffered an on-set embarrassment during her formative years with which even non-famous adolescents could identify. According to an interview with NPR, Wilson said that while starring in 2000's Thomas and the Magic Railroad, it suddenly became clear that she could no longer pull off the child roles for which she became famous. I came to set one day after a few months away, and people were kind of giving each other worried looks, she said. The back room is loaded from floor to ceiling with boxes of T-shirts, for example. Gold and Silver Pawn makes just as much money, if not more, from the sales of merchandise. The Chumley stuff sells the best. The customers aren't always random strangers beyond even the pre-approved items to ensure good television. Not every sale comes from a regular Joe. And I had to have the director come and sit with me and explain to me that my body was changing. That sound you just heard was a million teenage girls running upstairs and slamming their bedroom door. Though Wilson also said, there wasn't like one big moment where I knew I was done. We have to imagine that the 1-2 combination of already not feeling the biz and having to chat about your bra with your boss when you're still a preteen basically does the trick. On one episode, an elderly woman brought in a 50s vintage Gibson electric guitar, which she claimed had been sitting under a bed for the past 5 decades. Perhaps it's unsurprising that Thomas and the Magic Railroad was her last acting credit until 2011. Going from screen actor to scribe. Although she quit acting, Wilson went on to study at New York University and didn't dismiss her creative juices. Rick called in a guitar expert, who said it was the real deal, but he didn't actually inspect it the way a legitimate guitar appraiser would. He doesn't remove the pickups, for example. As it turns out, the guitar was supposedly already on sale in that same expert's guitar store, and the woman was reportedly the mother of an employee. The product placement. The show's production company earns a lot of money through blatant product placement. One of the biggest Pawn Stars sponsors is Subway. Over the years, she's developed a rather fine resume as a writer. That explains why the staff are always eating Subway, or perfectly crafted sandwiches in Subway wrappers are sitting around, or why Subway sandwiches are discussed by their full menu name. She wrote a book, a play, and articles that landed in high-profile places such as McSweeney's, The Daily Beast, and Elle. One particular piece called 7 Reasons Child Stars Go Crazy, An Insider's Perspective, written for Cracked, made national headlines due to Wilson's humorous, yet completely on-point rundown of why actors such as Lindsay Lohan and Amanda Bynes struggled to find their footing as adults. You know, just like in real life. If I were to talk to Lindsay Lohan, I'd encourage her to get the hell out of acting and into something soothing, she wrote. Take up botany or something. Lindsay Lohan, the botanist. Now, there's a thought. She worked for a nonprofit in addition to her writing. Wilson occasionally does voiceover work and cameos, more on that in a moment, but for a while, she also dedicated much of her time and energy to the nonprofit organization Publicolor. According to its website, the Youth Development Program engages high-risk students in their education throughout the year with a continuum of design-based programs that mentor them for success in college, career, and life. As of this writing, it's unclear what affiliation Wilson still has, if any, with the program. However, she was still promoting it and helping to raise funds in February 2017 when she tweeted, "I worked with Publicolor for years. I love this organization so much. Please give. A child star who now mentors young kids? Is there some kind of honorary Oscar for that?" The Matilda Challenge was literally Matilda approved. If you're unfamiliar with Internet challenges, welcome to the World Wide Web. It's weird here. Anyway, challenges are an entire genre of Internet video in which people participate in anything from dance crazes, to dangerous Kylie Jenner lip-based activities, to dumping ice water on their heads for charity. They can be literally anything, which is why, more than 2 decades after the film was released, Matilda became the inspiration for one such challenge. No, we do not know why, and we would argue no earthly being does.
Regardless of how the Matilda challenge came to pass, Mara Wilson absolutely loved it, which is pretty much the holy grail of any celebrity-based challenge. She gave her seal of approval by sharing a video of a young girl hilariously pretending to have telekinesis, a trick she pulled off by having several ineffectively obscured helpers tossing items around the room while she pointed at them using her powers. Eat your heart out, George Lucas. Matilda vs. 11? Mara Wilson knows who wins. Speaking of Internet things, Mara Wilson also weighed in on another web trend, memes. This one involved people pitting her character from Matilda against another similarly gifted character from more recent times, 11 from Stranger Things. According to BuzzFeed, this debate got downright technical, with one journalist, yes, journalist, weighing in on Twitter, "Folks are really saying 11 would win and I am perplexed. She had training and still could barely wiggle a truck. Matilda's skills were sharp and precise. She had kids flying, electricity going crazy, multiple objects moving simultaneously. 11 don't want no smoke." Mara Wilson took a more egalitarian approach and shut the whole conversation down by tweeting, "Matilda and 11 would choose not to fight, and would instead become friends." Granted, that probably depends on how much attention Matilda got from Mike, but look, there's no need to send this thing right back into the weeds, right? Moving on. She's probably not going on your podcast though. Mara Wilson seems extremely well versed in all things internet. Podcasting was not something she embraced with abandon. In fact, according to the FAQ section of her website, she said, "The great thing about podcasts is anyone can make one. The bad thing about podcasts is anyone can make one." We're not sure when she wrote these sentiments, but she also felt at the time, "If you have a small audience, there really isn't much payoff for me. I know that sounds cruel, but think about what you do for a job, and imagine if people wanted you to do it for free and without much recognition." She then said she really only does podcasts that she's a fan of, or ones that are favors for friends, but something must have changed somewhere along the way. A quick Google search for Mara Wilson podcast returns several pages of appearances she's made over the years, including one for something called Pounded in the Butt by My Own Podcast. So yeah, that's either an extremely good friend of hers, or Wilson certainly seems to have relaxed her stance on podcasting a bit. She has struggled with mental illness. In 2015, Wilson teamed up with Project Urok to create a video discussing her many battles over the years with depression, anxiety, and obsessive-compulsive disorder (OCD). "I wish somebody had told me that it's okay to be anxious, that you don't have to fight it," she says in the video. That, in fact, fighting is this thing that makes it worse, that pushing it away is really what it is, it's the fear of fear. And that it's okay to be depressed, she continued. Also, not that it's okay, but it's not a romantic thing. You don't have to be depressed, you don't have to suffer with it. You can get help. You can reach out. Wilson also turned her personal battles into a comedy show called What Are You Afraid Of? In 2014. She addressed her sexuality on Twitter. Wilson's sexuality became a hot topic in June 2016 when she tweeted, "I used to identify as mostly straight. I've embraced the bi-queer label lately." It was part of a series of tweets that Wilson decided to share in the wake of the mass shooting in Orlando that claimed the lives of more than 50 people at the LGBT-friendly Pulse nightclub, according to People. Though she was open with her followers, even sharing the above photo of herself at a gay club when she was 18, she decided to press pause on the conversation for a while, tweeting, "I think I'm going to stay off Twitter for a few days. I had no idea this would be such a thing, but I guess it's flattering." In September 2017, she returned to the topic in an interview with Ariel Goldberg in which she said the reason that she came out was to show solidarity with her community, and that she'd like to see bisexuality destigmatized, particularly within the entertainment world. Wilson summed up her feelings by saying that embracing someone's sexuality is a simple matter of respect. "You don't need to understand something completely to be okay with it," she said. She did a cameo for Broad City. Although Wilson has backed away from acting and explained her reasons for doing so multiple times, she still agreed to appear in a cameo in a 2016 episode of Broad City that paid homage to Mrs. Doubtfire. How did that come about? According to an interview with Brooklyn, Broad City star and co-creator Abby Jacobson told Wilson about the upcoming Mrs.
Doubtfire homage episode after Wilson began following her on Twitter. A few days later, the typically reserved Wilson said she felt emboldened. "I think it was after a glass of wine, and I said, you know, if you want me to make a cameo or something on this, I totally would. I don't act much, I don't really like film or TV acting, but this would be really fun and I have a lot of respect for you too." Wilson told Brooklyn. "They were like, totally, we'd love to have you on." They were both really excited. "Alana sent me a yes, queen email. She's dealt with social media harassment as a writer who promotes her own work. Mara Wilson uses social media, in part, to share her projects with her fans. You really don't have to look any further than her prolific use of both Facebook and Twitter to realize that she also happens to love the medium. However, in a 2014 interview with Longreads, Wilson lamented that Twitter, her favorite social media platform, is not good of sick taking care of harassment. She expanded on her feelings in a 2018 piece she wrote for Elle, in which she outlined some pretty scary treatment she endured from a fellow Twitter user. He had threatened to sexually assault me and several of my friends, kill our pets and partners, and even my friend's newborn baby, Wilson wrote. He found phone numbers and addresses, tweeted them publicly, and reminded us that he lived in New York and could easily show up at our homes if we didn't do what he wanted. Wilson even confessed that she would not hesitate to leave Twitter and Facebook if there was a better alternative, but that she sticks around for the promotional benefits, the ability to crowdfund worthy causes, and the positive interactions she has with fans. The truth is that no one actually cares about the platform, Wilson wrote. They care about the people who use them. She's very aware of her responsibility to her fanbase. In a June 2018 essay, Mara Wilson shared a funny anecdote about an email she got from a dude named Jason, who offered her $50,000 to attend a retreat at a Montreal cabin where he wanted her to pick and eat magic mushrooms with him and 9 of his long-lost bros so that she could moderate their catching-up session. Nope, that doesn't sound ominous at all, huh? But in spite of dismissing the email for being what it was, ludicrous on its face, Wilson offered a thoughtful explanation of why she would never do such a thing. Wilson is extremely cognizant of her youthful fanbase, which is kind of surprising, considering anyone who loved her as the little girl from Mrs. Doubtfire when that film premiered would be well into adulthood by now. Regardless, Wilson wrote that she feels she has to be discreet, to try to live as if I'm a role model. It's not that I believe things like sex and substances are inherently immoral, I just think they are solely for grown-ups, she wrote. Children should not be concerned with them, they've got enough to deal with already. We're trying really hard not to bring up that oddly titled podcast right now.